Good evening, councilmen and women. My name is Bob Jamison. I'm in District 4 off of Gambrell Road. I had written an email regarding item 16E, the purported bank that y'all were considering. It's just come out of Finance Committee, I believe. Hopefully you got my email. I had a couple things that I wanted to point out. One is that I don't believe philosophically that's really a goal of government to be in the banking business. It seems when government does those kinds of things, it's never really worked out terribly well. I think we only have to look to the federal level, Fannie and Freddie, and some of the issues that they got involved in and the way they were ending up packaging poor loans. It encouraged predatory lending, and we can go back and we can look at why a lot of those dollars were lent in that manner. But the point would be government involved in the loaning of money is never, I think, a good thing. Any of the loans that would be made, if the thought is using the U.S. Department of Agriculture money, as I pointed out in my email, once those loans are made, the U.S. Department of Agriculture will take those to a group called the Colson Services Corporation, which then will go ahead and package those up as loans, as agency debt. And ultimately, these things will end up on the balance sheet of the federal government, and I think we have enough of a financial crisis now in this nation without adding those particular issues. I did add the links to each one of those sites. One is to the Appalachian Development Corporation, or Development Company, and the other is to the Colson Services. My other point would be that right now, I'm a small businessman, and if I'm going to the bank for a loan, during that process, I have the option of going SBA, or if I bring the idea up of going to the Appalachian Development Corporation, I can do that. I had a conversation with the Appalachian Development Corporation, and they were outlining to me that once they're engaged in this process for new businesses, the business owner has to have 15 to 20% equity in the business. If it's an existing business, they only need 10% equity in the business. You know, like I said, we're in a mortgage crisis, and a lot of that crisis involved predatory lending practices, and it seems to me when government gets involved in these kinds of things, even if we develop a standard that we feel like is a good standard, we're going to be in competition with SBA and also the Appalachian Development Corporation. And if we're saying that the standards are too tight with those organizations, and if we're going to go ahead and loan money to small businesses and use this as an alternative method of doing that, then that means we're going to have to probably loosen standards. And
that's time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much for your time, gentlemen. Ladies.
Thank you. Jonathan Hill.
I'm Jonathan Hill. I'm from District 4, from the Townville area. I was notified of this issue. I'd like to speak to issue 16E on the agenda. And according to an article posted on Friday in the Anderson Independent Mail, Anderson County is one step closer to being in the banking business. That was very alarming to me. Our administrator informs me that that was inaccurate. I know sometimes the newspaper gets things wrong. That's why from the outset I've tried to dig into this to make sure that I have an accurate understanding of what's going on here. But I have several major questions and issues with what's going on. For one thing, according to the newspaper, the loans doled out to county borrowers would be in the range of $5,000 to $30,000. According to this information I got from Mr. Tom Allen when I spoke to him on the phone the other day, these loans are going to start out at $20,000 and could go as high as $200,000. That doesn't sound like a gap loan to me. That sounds like competition with banks, to be quite frank. If this is not a county bank, as our administrator says, why is the county involved in even floating this idea out to begin with? Third, I don't think by anyone's definition of right that it is right to use public money for private uses. The government has no money but that what is taken by the people, and to use that in a private endeavor, even if it's under the guise of helping a small business, that's another form of redistributing the wealth, and I don't think that's what we as conservatives stand for. So, and I have a lot of questions here. This feels like a bait and switch. It feels like we're being sold one thing, but we may be getting another. So I have a lot of concerns here. I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say about it, and I hope that you'll do the right thing for the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hannah Hill.
Hannah Hill, District 4. I'm also speaking on Agenda Item 16E about the possible creation of a county bank. I understand, I've also done some research. I've read the article that Mr. Allen directed us to, as well as the Anderson Independent article. And I understand that the goal here is to help small businesses create jobs. And there's nothing wrong with that goal. That's something that we all want to see. But there's something we've got to understand. And, you know, we've just passed the election season. We heard politician after politician talking about their plan to create jobs. The thing is, it's not government's job to create jobs. Government cannot create jobs. It cannot create wealth. Wealth is generated by the private sector. All government can do, local, state, and federal, is create an environment conducive to the creation of jobs. And there are a couple of principles that are often overlooked, and I would, as you consider your options, what's on the table, I would ask y'all to consider these principles as well. Number one is the principle of limited government. Basically, that refers not to how many county employees we've got or how many positions or how much money we spend, but to the scope of government. Basically, limited government says that there are some areas in which government should not be involved. And then there's the principle of free enterprise. Basically, what that means is if you can find it in the yellow pages, government shouldn't be doing it. It's just as simple as that. Here's the thing. The government can't help us so many times without hurting us more. Ronald Reagan said the 9 most dangerous, most scary words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. We've all heard that one. There's a lot of truth to it. And there are solutions. There are ways you cut regulations, cut taxes, you know, a whole host of things. We don't want to talk about this one so much, but you could cut the number of county employees. Or what about the recreation fund? What about the tax that funds that? Is that really necessary in a time of economic recession? There are options there that don't infringe on the rights of private citizens or on the rights of the free market. And so I'd ask y'all to consider this and keep this in mind. And just bear in mind one final point. Government should not do well what it should not do at all. Thank you.
Rick Freemantle.
The bank. Shame on me for making the mortal sin of believing the newspaper. Understand it's not a bank, it's actually a revolving account. That being said, this is not the first time I stood here and said this. It does seem to me that we are still creating debt. I understand, thanks to the administrator, that this money will come from the agricultural department to create a 501c3. Well, you know that money don't come out of thin air. That money the agricultural department will give to the 501c3, they're borrowing it from someone. Anyone know how to spell China? That money, when it gets borrowed and goes to this 501c3, we are borrowing future generations' economic survival and liberties and freedoms. I don't like it. I see too many things that will go wrong with it. Here again, you'll have to create another board of advisors to oversee this thing. Right now, we got a fairly dependable, trustworthy council. What happens when the regime comes back? And it will, because we all got our own number of days on this earth. It won't be hunky-dory people we can trust all the time. It will become political. It will become used as a tool. One last parting thought. You know, any government that's big enough to give you everything you want, we've heard it 1,000,000 times, is big enough to take it from you. Thank you.